Have you ever wondered how to make your application invincible against hackers? Or how to add an extra layer of security that keeps your users' data safe from prying eyes? Well, you are in the right place. In today's video, we are unlocking the secret of two-factor authentication, known for short as 2FA. The first question is, why 2FA? In an era where cyber threats are becoming more sophisticated, relying solely on password is no longer enough. Think about this. If someone steals or guesses your password, they could gain unauthorized access to your account. But you know something? 2FA adds an extra layer of security, making it significantly harder for attackers to breach your system. Also, imagine this scenario. You have just developed a cutting-edge application with sensitive data and valuable user information. Without 2FA, a simple password compromise could put your entire application at risk. But with 2FA, even if a password is stolen, an attacker will still need a second factor, like a code sent to the user's email to access the content. You know that we are in a digital age, and securing user account isn't just the best practice to follow. Rather, it is necessary. From protecting sensitive information to ensuring safe transactions, 2FA provides that extra layer of protection. And guess what? Today, we are going to show you how exactly to integrate 2FA with Identity in your .NET 8 Web API. We're going to cover the entire process, from setting up the automatic 2FA for new users, to generating and verifying code, and finally, issuing JWT tokens. So, are you ready to elevate your app security game? Well, let's dive into the world of 2FA and make your application as secured as Fort Knox. So make sure you have launched your Visual Studio 2022 or higher and create a project. Basically, this is going to be a Web API project. Give it a name. That is mine, Demo 2FA with Identity. Choose a location for your project. Next. And here, all that you need to do is to hit on that Create button to get this project created. If you have been following this channel, I have made several videos on identity. So I've made email confirmation, I have made reset password, and how to lock out user on a password failed attempt. Now, within these 3 videos, we covered the basic process, and that is the same thing that we're going to be doing here. So if you have watched any of these 3 videos, maybe you can change the timestamp and I'll skip by installing packages, because the same package that we use, that is what we're going to be using here. So you can check the timestamp and I'll skip to where you think is necessary. But well, I am doing this to include the newbies as well. So let's go and install our packages for our database and also identity and JWT services. So I have these packages references already, so I can just go in there and reload it. That is what I've been doing. But if you don't have that, then you can go ahead and install these packages. If you're a newbie and you don't know how to install, quickly right click on dependencies, you go to add or manage NuGet packages, and in there you're going to type in these packages names here to get them installed. Quite simple. Okay, but for me, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'll just unload the project, make sure I save the default state, then I'll unload this project. So I'll just go to the item groups, and here I'll paste these packages. Well, it is the same packages, that is what we have been using, but if you don't know, we're using MailKit to send mail. We're using this bearer for JWT authentication. We are using identity with the UI for identity manager or user identity services. And also we have an SQLite and our tools for database and migration. these are the packages that we are installing. So you pause the video and try to install these packages. When you're done, tell me so we can continue on. I believe you are done by now. Great. So let's save this, and after saving, I'm going to reload project with dependencies to get these packages restored. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here is let's go to program.cs file and add these services. You know, we have three things that we're going to add services: database, JWT and Identity. So let's first start with the database. So we have our builder.services, and here add DB context. But before we add a DB context, you know, we haven't created any DB context yet. So we need to create one which inherits from identity DB context, which contains a default identity table and a lot of tables in here. Okay, so we are going to create a folder, do same, or you can rename the folder if you want. I'm going to make it as data, and here we're going to create a class as DB context. So I'm going to add this app to make it as an application DB context. You can change the name and make sure it suits what you're doing. So app DB context. Now with this context, let me make this C capital. Great. And it should inherit from identity DB context. Now this is coming from Entity Framework Core. Don't worry, you have that package installed already, so it has no issue. And now let's pass in this identity user. If you want to pass in any special properties, you can extend this, then pass it on here. Today we are not covering that. Okay, I have made a video on that, how to extend this. Maybe I'll put it in the description, or check the playlist and you're going to find it in there if you want to do so. So identity user, and this should come from this package. You need to create constructor for this. So control plus dots or period, then let's say it should be control dot, and we're going for this option, and here we need to pass in identity, this appdb context to this option. So appdb context. So we're done with that. Let's go to our program.cs file and include this class that we have just created. So appdb context. This needs an option, and this option helps you to specify the database connection and also the type of database that you want to use. Is it SQLite, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, MongoDB? Mention it. So we have specified an option, and I will say this option dot use SQLite. So we're going to use an SQLite because that is what we have installed. Now, the beauty of SQLite is we do not need to specify any long connection string. Specify it as data source, and I'll pass in the name. So auth.db. That is the name of the database. And now this database is going to be added to this file as source code. Okay. So we have our database connection registered successfully. The next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to register our JWT settings. So let's go ahead and I'll say builder.services.add authentication. Now this needs an option. Don't forget to terminate this. Then we have an option dot. We need to add 3 schemes. We have a default authentication scheme. We have our default scheme itself and also default challenge scheme. Now all these schemes are having just a scheme property to handle that. The value for each is the JWT bearer default dot authentication scheme. So let's do that. So we have our options dot default authentication scheme is equal to, you have a JWT bearer default dot authentication scheme. So let's make duplicate of this. And here we need only the default scheme. And here, instead of having the default authentication scheme, we need default challenge scheme. So default challenge scheme. Now that we are done, we need to add a JWT bearer. This also takes in an option. So let's do that. Now this option, we're saying option.save. This is an option. See what I did. So we have options then we're saying that this option dot save token, set this to true. We are not implementing refresh token here, so we would like to set that to false. And also, we don't want to verify and issue an audience, because as I speak, we are not consuming this in the client, so there's no need for us to activate that. So you're going to set issue and audience to false or to null. But in the production level, I believe you know that it's essential for you to set that, so you can have a look to check the coming in and at the producer. Okay, so we have this set, and we're going to say that this option dot, we need to set up this token validation parameters is equal to new token validation parameters. And now in here, we need to specify some properties in that. I think I did not do it well, right? It should be at the back like that. Great. And in here, the next thing that we're going to do this is to validate. So let's validate audience, set this to false, as I told you. We validate issuer to false as well. Then required expression time, set this to false. Then validate expiry. Do we have that? Lifetime, set this to false. Okay, so now that we have this, let's validate issuer sign-in key. After this, it should be true. And the next thing is we need to specify our issuer sign-in key. So this should be equal to new symmetric security key. Let's say it's over here. And now with this key, we need to specify or get our key. So maybe in the real sense, you're supposed to keep your secret key in your user secret or your app.json. But well, for the sake of this demo, I can put the security key here. It is secret, but I'm going to make it public to you so you can see it. Okay, but yours should be secret. Alright, so we have our new symmetric security key. Now, in order for us to get our key should be in a byte. So let's have our encoding, which is coming from system.test. We're going to be using an ASCII. Then in here, let's get byte. Now with this byte, let's specify any random text. But with this is my special or private key. But well, this is open to you. Okay, that is what I'm going to be using for creating and now authenticating the token. So we need this. Now, once we have this, we are good to go. So we have configured our token validation parameters nicely. Let's close this. The next thing that we're going to talk about here is to add the identity service. So the next line we say builder.services.add default. Do we have it? Add default. This should come from the identity UI that we installed. So services.add default identity. Great. Now let's pass in identity user. They should also take in an option. So this option also marks to this option dot. We need to specify. Let me put this in next line. So this option dot. Now here we're going for token. So token dot authentication, and I can see from here we have authenticator token provider. That is what we're going for. Now let's set this to token options because we want this email to be sent with a token in a form of numbers. So we can just go in there, copy that and verify. Okay, but well, if you want to create it as a link, then there's another way that you can handle that. But this time around, we want to focus on having it in numbers as a code, so that I can just go in there, copy that, and I'll verify your account with it before you log in. That is what most applications do. So let's also follow the same trend. Okay, so you have token options dot. Then we have default token email provider. Let's use that for this. Then terminate that. And the next thing that we're going to do here, dot add entity framework store, specify your app.db context. And that is all. Save that. Let's go to our controller, and in here we're going to create our controller. So I'm going to modify what we have already. That is what I normally do. I hate creating new one once we have one persistent already. So let's clear this because we don't need this. Even this as well, we don't need it. Now let's have our post method. Now this post takes in a route of register with 2 parameters, email as a first parameter, then we have our password as second parameter. Well, you can also get it as query strings, but I prefer using parameters than the query string. So here we're going to have our public async task, then we have our iAction result. Then let's say this is register, takes in 2 parameters specified, email and string as password. Now in here, before we can use user manager, we have to inject it here. So we say user manager, which takes in the identity user that we injected. Give it a name as user manager. Beautiful. We can grab this and we say that await user manager dot create async. Now this takes in new identity user. This is quite simple. Now this identity user takes in some properties. We have an ID, but we focus on the username, which is equal to this email, and name, well, username and email itself is equal to this email, and the password here is equal to the password coming in. Now in order for us to hash it, we need to provide this password down here. Now this is going to get the account created. We want to actually enable 2FA automatically. In a normal applications, you can be asked, because this is another second layer of security, and not all users will prefer to have this 2FA set. Okay, so it could be when consuming this in the client, you could have an option enable 2FA as a switch. As soon as the person enables it, that is what you call an endpoint. But in that case, since you're not consuming this in a client, we want to do everything in here. So whether you like it or not, as soon as you create an account, we have 2FA defaultly enabled. This is amazing, right? This is a magic of our application. So how do you do this? It's quite simple. You can get it from this user manager. So .setup, we have it here, authentication token async, or 2-factor enabled async. That is an API that we need to use. This takes in the user. Okay, and I said this is true. So let's through this, then we come back to get the user. We're going to be using this user to get for login. So I prefer we create a private method here to get that, which is an async task. Now this task returns an identity user. It could be null, so let's make sure it is. We say here it is get user, and it takes in what? Email. I believe you have remembered this. We have been creating this since starting of this videos. Now we have this have an await. It returns user manager dot find user by email. So user manager dot find user by email, and I'll pass in this email. So that is our private method which we'll be using often. So let's call this, now let's say await get user passing this email. So you can see within a single line we are able to register user. Now after registration, we want to return some meaningful thing to the user. Well, so what do you want to return? This should be an OK account created. But before account gets created, we need to enable this 2-factor. So you can see we have it enabled here. Then return account created. This is quite simple. So we can save that. And the next thing that we're going to do here is login. So when you log in, there should be 2 layers of security, at least 2 layers, right? The first layer is the password authentication. We're going to verify the password. Does it sync with the user account, which we have already? If it does, then let's go and authenticate it using the 2FA. So we are having 2 layers. So let's first handle the first layer. Then we have an HTTP. This is also post. And here we have our login, which takes in same email, same password. Same email and password. Now this should be public async task of iAction results. Then we say this is login, which takes in 2 parameters. First is email, and the last one here, it is what? Password. Now in here, we need to get the user, right? Because here we have a method created, so we can get user easily and now move on with it. So let's first check if this user password is successful. So we can have this if, then we're going to say that await user manager dot check password async. We need to pass in the user await, so we have get user, then pass in the email, and the next one, after doing this, we need to pass in the password itself. So here we need a password. Now this is going to return true. So if this is true, meaning password exists, but in case this is false, so in case this is false, we want to return maybe unauthorized. But in case this is true, then what can we do? We want to generate a token, that is a 2FA token, and I'll send to the user's email. Okay, so we can say that we have our token at hand, which is equal to, we have an await. Since we have enabled 2FA already for this specific user, as soon as he created the account, we can go ahead and now create the token. So user manager dot, now you're gonna have generate 2-factor token async. Okay, then within this we need a user, so await get user, then we specify the email, and aside from that we need another one, the token provider. So we have our token options dot default email provider. We need this. So after we have this token created, what can we do? We're going to send the message. Okay, so in order for us to send it, we're going to have to return, let's say okay, and call the method send message or send email, not message itself. Let's make it specific. Send email. And what we need here is we need the user and also we need the token. So let's have await get user. We specify the email and also we need the token itself. So passing the token. Now we need to generate this method. The control period, which takes in generate a method of send email, which takes an identity user and also a string token. Good. So once we have here, we're going to build this. Now I've prepared a simple HTML format which takes in the name as an email and also the token itself. So maybe you can just create something simple for that. So I'm going to copy mine and I'll paste it here to skip wasting my time in creating this HTML tags. You know, can do mistakes easily, so I like copy and paste in that. All right, so in here I'm going to create my HTML nice one. So yeah, I'm having a string builder, and you can see I'm having the structure of an HTML, a normal web app. It's a web app or website. So it's a page. So we have an HTML, we have a head style. I have a simple style in here, and in that I need to specify my email. So this email I can get it from identity user. So I'll say this identity user dot email. I can get my email here. Well, in case you have the username that you want to call it here, it means you need to get the username, add a property to it, and now add it and use it here. Then, so I'm having dear the email, thank you for using the application to complete the login process, do this and that and that. So let me just take this off. So verify using the phone verification code. Then that is the code. So you see we are having two variables in here. Now the code itself, so instead of saying token, I think this should be the code. To have my code here. Then after all, so best regard, then we have a security team, and you can actually customize this, okay, to get more of this. All right, so once we have this, we need to convert this string builder to string. So by doing that, you can use an extension known as a .toString. So we're going to say this is string message is equal to, we have our email body builder. So .toString to get it. Now the next thing we're going to do here is, since we have the package as make it installed, let's go and call this here. So normally you have to create service to handle that, but while you're doing everything here, so we have this email is equal to new MIME message. After we have this created, the next thing we're going to do here is we need to specify to and from. So whom are you sending a message to? And now the one sending. So we're going to say this email dot body, not body itself, because I'm not done with the body, from the add. So from dot add, and now with let's pass this here. So we can use mailbox dot pass, and now you specify from. So from who? That is me, right? Then you're going to have to. So to who, we're going to specify that. When we are done, we're going to create a fake email account from material.email. That's what I've been using for fake email service. Then we're going to pass it here. So don't worry. Let's finish the process done. So after we have our from and now to, we go to our subject. So that's our subject. We have it here. And now this is equal to FA verification. That is the subject. Then we go to the body. So email that body, and now with this body, we're going to set it to new text part. Now this text part takes in a lot of formats. So we're going to have text format.html, saying that is what we have, and we need to specify the value here. So we have it as message. The next thing that we're going to do here is we need to create an SMTP client. So we're going to say using var SMTP is equal to, this is not value tags, this is just variable. So var SMTP is equal to new SMTP. Now this is coming from MailKit, so we create that. Now we need to connect, authenticate, and now send. So let's do that. SMTP dot, let's first connect. We specify our host, and for the host it is static, so SMTP, not PT, TP dot ethereal dot email, and it has a port of 587 which runs on TLS. So let's have a secured socket option dot start TLS. So we have this set. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we need to authenticate ourselves before we can make a send. So .authenticate, which takes in the email and also takes in the password. We're going to fill that soon, so don't worry. After doing this, then we need to send and disconnect. So smtp.send, send or send this email. After you are done sending, kindly smtp go in there and now disconnect it. Do that. I confirm it's true, so do it. Then we have this set. After that, we want to return some message to the user, because this method returns string, so we can get it in a controller or in a return type. So we're going to say that so thank you for, no, this is another registration, right? So we can just go ahead and write something like 2FA verification code sent to your email. So kindly check and verify. Yes. Okay. So we have this set. Now, what of in case a person goes to the email, get a code, where can this person verify it? So let's have a method to handle that. And this is HTTP post. So let's say verify. This should be verify 2FA, which takes in the email of the user and also the code itself. Let's have our public async task. Now with this task, it should return action results, which should be verify 2FA, and now it takes in the email of the user and now the code. So although it is string, it is numbered, but we're going to convert into string because that is what it needs to verify the 2FA. So once you have this, let's save this. So let's say the person has called this endpoint and provided the correct code. So what can we do? All that we're going to do here is await user manager dot, then we want to verify the two-factor token async. So here, since we want to generate our token, we don't need to sign in with this two-factor authentication or two-factor token, okay? Because here we want to just verify and check that if it matches with what we have. After we have a successful check-in, then we can proceed and create our token. But when consuming this or implementing this in Blazor, which is interactive server render mode, then you need to use that endpoint, not this one. Okay, so we're using this API because we're integrating it in our controller, whereby we need to generate a token afterwards. So we have our verify token factor, a two-factor token async, which takes in identity user. So we can get this identity user from await get user, and now with this, let's pass in this email. Aside from that, we need the token itself, which is string. So now we have the code. Kindly pass the code in there. And the next one that we need to do here is we need the token option. That is it. So let's see. I think I skipped that. We have token provider, right? So we have it already created. So we say this is token options dot, and we're using the default email, right? So let's search for this email provider, and I'm passing the code. So just a line can make this work. So after that, we want to return okay, and now with this okay, we're going to generate the token. So maybe we can pass in login successfully, and here maybe you can make this as string. So let's say this is new, and at the end here, let's also provide a method. Let's close this first and say generate token. So this method is going to generate a token, then we pass in the user. Okay, let's generate this token. So generate this method as token, and in here, this is what we're going to be doing. We have our method to generate this token, so let's go and do that. We need to create our claims, and also we need to generate the token itself. So in order to do this, we can have our token. Now this token here is equal to, we have a new JWT security token. So this, and now here we need issuer. Since we did not specify, this should be null. We need audience. This also null. Then we have claims. So this claim that we have, you're going to say this equal to new claim. Now with this claim, let's specify JWT registered claim names.email, and I will provide this as identity user.email. Aside from this, we need an expires. We did not set that, so this is null. Then the next thing is we need a sign-in key, so sign-in credential, and in here we need to specify a credential. So for us to get it, we need to make it as new sign-in credential. So new sign-in credentials. Do we have it? So that is this one. So new sign-in credentials, and now this credential takes in security key and now the security algorithm. Let's first remove this. I think this should be added to the namespace. And our control period, let's include this. Okay, so here we need to specify security algorithms. So security algorithms dot, and then here we need to use HMAC256. Okay, so as you're done, now with the security key, we need to have our new symmetric security key, this one. And now with this key, we need to specify a key. So this key, we're going to make it as encoding which is coming from system.test dot, now we use an ASCII for the first one, so dot get byte, and now with this byte we need to specify the byte. So we can go to program.cs, get our byte, then go to our controller, and here let's paste this byte. Okay, so you have our byte here pasted, and that is what we need for this. Now after we are done, the next thing I'm going to do here is we need to return new JWT security token handler, new JWT security token handler, and we can extract a method from as write token. Let's specify this token, and that is all. So this method also going to get as a token. So we are done with everything. Now we're going to, unless we need this, so let's go to pull up our browser, and let's go to ethereal.email. So in here we click on, there's a link, ethereal.email. Click on create new Ethereal account. This is fake account, so I'm going to grab this. Let's go to our email service. So here from, it is the same, so from myself to yourself. That is what we need. I think we need to grab everything from here. Cannot be typing that once we have it. So we paste this, and now from myself to myself, and we have to authenticate. Let's go in for the password. There's a password, so let's grab that and paste in here. That is all. Let's apply. Before we do that, we need to rebuild this project. That is done. Put up your package manager console, and let's add migration. Update it. And that is done. So let's go ahead and now run this project. So we have our endpoints ready. So let's go and register an account. So pass an email. So admin@gmail.com. Pass in the password admin@12345. That is my password. Now let's click on create to create this account. Now it is done. So when you check, you see we have account created. Let's go and log in. So try this out. Now log in. Now you're going to check from the first layer if this account or if this address or password sync with what we have used already. If it does, then it sends the code to our email. Let's go to our email and check it out. Click on messages, and while we have it, 2FA verification, click on it, and now this is what we have. So dear, thank you for using the application to complete the login process. Kindly use the following verification code. So let's grab this code, then let's go back. So let's come and now verify it. Now after successful verification, that is where our code is going to be generated. You can see that although we've logged in, but when we logged in, we could not get the token because it is not happening there. It is happening in the verification. So we have our email. Let's specify the email here. And now this is the token. So let's paste in our token and now click on execute. In case this works, we should have our token in here. And that's exactly what we have. And that wraps up for today's video. We've just covered how to implement two-factor authentication, known as a 2FA for short, with Identity in .NET 8 Web API. If you have any question or feedback, drop them in the comment below. Alright, stay secured, keep coding, and I'll see you in the next video.